Greetings and welcome to Fantastical Science with Miss Jenny. In this series, I transform from librarian to scientist. Today, we're going to be focusing on the elements of STEAM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And we're going to be focusing on the A for art.
Hey, Ham, look, I'm Picasso.
I don't get it.
Now, you may find that art and science are an odd pairing, but in fact, there's actually a lot of science behind art. So today, we're going to focus on the science and the art behind colors or making dyes. Our first one is called coffee filter tie-dye. So I'm going to sit down and show you how it's done. As always, these are experiments that you can do at your house with items you can find around your home. For this one, we need a coffee filter, washable markers, a spray bottle filled with water, and if you want, you can even have a pipe cleaner, Chanel sticks, or clothespins. All right, so it's super easy because you're going to take your markers and you're going to color. You can do like wedges if you want to make a groovy 60s or 70s tie-dye pattern, or you can do shapes like hearts and stars. And when you're all done coloring however you want to color it, what you're going to do is you're going to take your spray bottle and you're going to spray it. Now for this step, I honestly like to use a trash can because I find it's very messy because you are basically spraying water at washable markers. See, washable markers, as their name indicates, wash off in water. The fancy science term for this is called soluble. And what you're doing is you're making the colors run, but the coffee filter is catching the colors and making the tie-dye pattern. And when you're done, you also might need a paper plate so you can let it air dry on that. If you put it outside, it'll dry in no time. And when it's all done, like my finished one here, you can make a few different craft projects with it, depending. You can fold it in half again, and using, if you have a Chanel stick, you make a fun little flower. Or you can, coming from here, kind of twist it in the middle, like so. And if you clip it with your clothespin, you can make a bat or a butterfly.
Hi, you'll like Amy. She's an artist.
So those are all the fun things you can make with your tie-dye coffee filter. Now that's a pretty easy one because it's washable markers. Next, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing with permanent markers. So this is called permanent marker tie-dye. As its name indicates, you will need permanent markers, sometimes known as Sharpies, if you get the brand. A white cloth. You can use a bandana, a t-shirt, pillowcase, anything you do not mind tie-dyeing. So make sure you ask permission first. And it just needs to be white is the main thing. Then you're going to take a cup, plastic, or if you don't have plastic, styrofoam, and you're going to place it around the cup, and you're going to use a rubber band to tie it around and make it nice and tight, because then you basically have this circle surface to work with. Then you're going to take your markers, and the best way to do it is to make little circles, so like polka dots, all the way around. Now, permanent markers, like their name indicates, are permanent, unlike washable markers. So water is not going to work in this experiment. So what we need is something a little bit stronger, what is known as rubbing alcohol. So we're going to fill a spray bottle filled with rubbing alcohol to spray upon it. You see, rubbing alcohol works, that it's a chemical reaction that works with the permanent markers that make the permanent markers become soluble. All right, so let me show you how it works. So we're going to take our spray and we're going to spray it. And again, you might want to do this over a trash can. Also, because it's rubbing alcohol, it smells a little. You might want to do it outside. And you spray it at it, and what you'll see is it will start to tie-dye. It will flow down because, again, the fabric is working like a catch to the tie-dye pattern, and eventually, and the nice thing is you then take it off and you work on your next circle. And when you're done, you'll have a finished product. And what's really cool is once it's dry, you can actually wash it in the washing machine and it won't run because, again, it's not soluble in water, only in rubbing alcohol. And that is the simple way to do tie-dye with permanent marker. Now, so far in our experiments, we've been working with markers. But what happens if we use science to make colors themselves? Now this one is really fun, a little bit messy, and you're going to need fresh blackberries, white vinegar, lemon juice, either from a real lemon or bought from the store, water, Q-tips, if you happen to have them, watercolor brushes, but you don't have to, you can even just use the Q-tips, and 4 different cups, measuring cups that can measure half a cup and a quarter cup, and a bowl. So for this, we need to measure out half a cup of blackberries. This is about a 2-cup measurement, so I'm going to go right about here in my half-cup measurement. So the nice thing about big measuring cups is they often have the smaller measurements inside of them. And what you're going to do once you've measured out about a half a cup of blackberries is you're going to put them inside of a Ziploc bag. And you're going to want to make sure you zip it really tight because what we're going to do is we're going to make blackberry juice. So you want to make sure it's nice and tight and zipped up because then you get to squish it. And what to do with all these leftover blackberries? You get to eat them. A nice source of vitamin C. So yummy. All right. Once you've got your blackberries all squished up into a beautiful blackberry juice, what you're going to do is you're going to pour it into your bowl. Now, I did this experiment before to make sure it worked, and I noticed that because blackberries have lots of seeds, there will be seeds in your juice, and that's okay. You can, when it's dry, just flick them off. It'll be fine. Because if you try and take all those seeds out now, well, you're going to have very stained hands. All right, now that we have all our squished blackberry juice, we're going to put it in our bowl. Now, it's very, very thick right now, so we're going to add some water to it to be able to make it more like a dye. All right, so we're going to take our measuring cup again, and we're going to measure out a quarter cup of water. And now you have, and if you want, you can use a spoon or a paintbrush to kind of mix it all together. And then comes the fun part. You're going to take a white piece of paper and you're going to submerge it, that's a fancy word for drown it, into your blackberry juice, which has now become like a dye. And yes, you may have to do, I did find that the thicker the paper, the better it worked. So you might want to use construction paper, because when I tried to use printer paper, oh my goodness, it started falling apart as soon as it got wet. And once you've submerged all of it, what you're going to have is purple paper. Now this is where we get to use science as well as art, because now we're going to mix different liquids with our blackberry juice. All right. We're going to take 4 different cups. And I labeled them for you. You can label yours if you like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for this next part, we're going to do a lot of measuring because we're going to need 4 different cups full of 4 different liquids. So we're going to take our measuring cup, and 2 of them are going to involve a 1/4 cup of water. All right, so the first one, number 1, just plain old water. The second one is going to be water and baking soda. So we're going to take a teaspoon of baking soda and we're going to put it in cup number 2. And yes, it will fizz. That is perfectly normal. That is how baking soda reacts with water. There we go. Nice and fizzy. Fizz, 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 fizz. Stir it up so it gets nice and mixed. And that's our baking soda mixture. For number 3, we are going to measure out, let me get this water out of the way because now I need a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And for cup number 4, I'm going to measure out a 1/4 cup of vinegar. Yes, it is going to smell because vinegar is very strong. Probably want to use white vinegar, though in the name of science, if you have apple cider vinegar, maybe you want to see what happens with that one. You never know until you try. And vinegar. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Q-tips, and that's why you need to have at least 4 of them, because what you're going to do is you're going to dip Q-tip number 1 into cup number 1, and you're going to make a mark on your paper. And you're going to do that with all 4 of them. So then there's the baking soda one. And the lemon juice one. I see a color. And the vinegar one. And what you'll see as you do it is you'll start to see different colors. And the science behind this is that we are dealing with acids and bases. So acids like the lemon juice and the vinegar are going to create sort of a purplish, bluish color and pinkish color. And then we're going to have bases that are going to be kind of a more, your baking soda, which is going to turn out to be a lot more blue. And one thing I found really interesting is that when it dried, they changed colors again. Because when I did vinegar, it showed up purple like it did here. But then when it dried, it became blue. And my lemon juice, which was very pink, you can barely see it. It's fascinating. You're using science to create art. And this is why I said it was optional to use some paintbrushes, because then you can actually make a masterpiece, you know, draw a smiley face, a heart, whatever you like, and see all the different reactions. You can even experiment and try, you know, lemon juice and vinegar. What color does that make? Does it cancel them out? Now you might have noticed that the water didn't do anything. That's because in science, this is called a control. In science, we use what are called variables. These are all things that vary or change the thing that we're working with on our experiment. But what we need is a control that basically shows us how the things change by being the one thing that doesn't change, hence control. And now with these 3 experiments, you have used science to make art. Congratulations! Next time, you can join me as we're going to focus on the M for math.